What was it like on the set of Little House on the Prairie? The actress who played Michael Landon's wife says it wasn't as wholesome as it seemed.
For millions of viewers, Little House on the Prairie represented everything wholesome about classic television. Week after week, audiences watched the Ingalls family overcome hardship through love, determination, and faith. Walnut Grove felt like a peaceful escape from the modern world, a place where neighbors looked after one another, and every episode ended with a meaningful lesson. But behind the warm smiles and picturesque prairie landscapes was a production filled with practical jokes, personal struggles, unexpected friendships, and moments that few fans ever imagined. Some of the show's most unforgettable scenes carried stories that were just as fascinating as what appeared on screen. And once you know what was happening behind the cameras, you'll never look at the series in quite the same way. One scene in particular has sparked conversations among fans for years. Eagle-eyed viewers noticed something unusual that somehow slipped through production without being corrected. It became one of several memorable bloopers that proved even one of television's most beloved family dramas wasn't perfect. But before we get to that famous moment, it's worth understanding how this iconic series came to life, and why its cast became like a second family. The journey began with the beloved books written by Laura Ingalls Wilder. Drawing inspiration from her own childhood growing up in America's frontier communities, Wilder transformed memories of pioneer life into stories that captured both hardship and hope. Her books became bestsellers because they didn't simply romanticize frontier living. They showed the sacrifices families made while building new lives in an untamed land, balancing difficult realities with moments of warmth, humor, and resilience. Those stories eventually caught the attention of television producer Ed Friendly, who believed they could become something special on television. The project needed someone capable of carrying the emotional weight of the series while also bringing authenticity to the role of Charles Ingalls. That responsibility fell to Michael Landon. By the early 1970s, Landon was already a familiar face to television audiences thanks to his years starring in Bonanza. Yet rather than treating Little House on the Prairie as simply another acting job, he became deeply involved in shaping nearly every aspect of the production. Besides portraying Charles Ingalls, he directed dozens of episodes, wrote scripts, developed storylines, and helped establish the emotional tone that defined the series. His fingerprints were everywhere. Many cast members later described Landon as the driving force behind the show's success. He demanded high standards while also encouraging a relaxed atmosphere that allowed young performers to feel comfortable. His leadership helped transform a television set into something that often felt like an extended family. No relationship reflected that atmosphere more than the bond between Michael Landon and Melissa Gilbert. Gilbert was only a child when she was cast as Laura Ingalls. Like many young actors, she entered Hollywood at an age when life could feel confusing and overwhelming. According to her own recollections, Landon quickly became far more than just a co-star. He acted as a mentor, protector, and father figure throughout much of her childhood. Between scenes, he joked with the younger cast members, encouraged them when they felt nervous, and often made long filming days feel more like summer camp than work. Melissa Gilbert has recalled how much she admired him during those early years and how his support helped her grow both personally and professionally. Their friendship became one of the strongest relationships on the entire production. However, real life rarely follows the same script as television. As years passed, Landon's personal life became increasingly complicated. His divorce and subsequent relationship with makeup artist Cindy Clerico attracted significant attention. For Gilbert, whose own childhood had been shaped by divorce within her family, those events were emotionally difficult to accept. She later admitted feeling disappointed and hurt, creating distance between herself and the man she had once viewed almost like a father. For a time, the close friendship disappeared. Fortunately, the story didn't end there. When Landon was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer years later, Gilbert chose to reconnect with him. Old disagreements no longer seemed important compared to the opportunity to say goodbye. The two reconciled before his passing, bringing closure to a relationship that had profoundly shaped both their lives. Gilbert later honored his memory by naming one of her children Michael, a touching reminder of the impact he had made on her life. While viewers saw plenty of conflict between Laura Ingalls and Nellie Oleson on television, reality told an entirely different story. On screen, the two girls were bitter rivals. Nearly every encounter between Laura and Nellie ended with an argument, a prank, or one of the show's famous confrontations. Their feud became one of the defining elements of the series, and audiences loved watching Laura finally get the better of the spoiled Nellie. Behind the cameras, though, Melissa Gilbert and Alison Arngrim couldn't have been more different from their characters. Instead of enemies, they became inseparable friends. When filming wrapped each day, the two often spent time together away from the set. They shared sleepovers, laughed constantly, and developed a friendship that continued long after childhood. Their ability to switch from best friends to convincing rivals whenever the cameras rolled amazed everyone involved in the production. That chemistry also gave birth to one of the funniest behind-the-scenes traditions. As Melissa Gilbert grew older, her character's story naturally introduced romance. Laura's relationship with Almanzo Wilder became an important part of the series, but filming those scenes wasn't nearly as comfortable as viewers may have imagined. Gilbert was still a teenager when romantic storylines became part of the script. Acting opposite an older co-star made her understandably nervous, particularly when it came to her first on-screen kiss. Seeing an opportunity for harmless mischief, Alison Arngrim and actor Steve Tracy, who played Nellie's husband, Percival, began teasing their young friend. Whenever Melissa was nearby, the two exaggerated their romantic scenes, pretending to be passionately in love simply to watch her become embarrassed. Everyone involved understood it was playful teasing rather than genuine cruelty, and the joke became one of the cast's favorite behind-the-scenes memories. Ironically, the situation was even more amusing because Steve Tracy was openly gay among many of his friends and colleagues. His exaggerated displays of affection with Arngrim were simply part of the prank, making the entire situation one giant inside joke shared by the cast. Those playful moments revealed something audiences never saw while watching the finished episodes. Behind the emotional family drama was a workplace filled with laughter, friendships, and practical jokes that helped balance the demanding filming schedule. Yet not every relationship behind the scenes was quite so harmonious. From the outside, the cast of Little House on the Prairie looked like one big happy family. Viewers watched the Ingalls children laugh together, comfort one another through tragedy, and stand united against every challenge that came their way. It was easy to believe the friendships continued once the cameras stopped rolling. In reality, however, not every relationship was as warm as it appeared on screen. One of the biggest surprises involved the actresses who played sisters Laura and Mary Ingalls. On television, Melissa Gilbert and Melissa Sue Anderson portrayed siblings who cared deeply for one another. They shared countless emotional scenes that convinced audiences they truly had a sisterly bond. Behind the scenes, though, things were far more complicated. According to Melissa Gilbert's later memoir, she and Anderson rarely connected as friends during the series. Gilbert described her co-star as distant and reserved, making it difficult for the two young actresses to develop the close relationship viewers assumed existed. As the years passed, their personalities seemed to drift even further apart. No one has ever revealed a single incident that caused the tension. Instead, it appeared to be a collection of personality differences that gradually created distance between them. Other cast members later hinted that Anderson often kept to herself, while some suggested that her highly protective upbringing may have made it difficult for her to socialize with the rest of the young cast. Whatever the reason, the relationship never fully recovered. Even decades after the series ended, the two actresses rarely spoke publicly about each other with warmth. While Melissa Gilbert openly discussed the challenges of working together, Melissa Sue Anderson generally chose not to comment, leaving fans to wonder whether the truth lies somewhere between both perspectives. Fortunately, disagreements like that were the exception rather than the rule. Most of the cast genuinely enjoyed spending time together, and much of that atmosphere was created by Michael Landon himself. Landon believed a relaxed cast produced better performances. Instead of maintaining a rigid workplace, he encouraged laughter whenever possible. Between scenes, practical jokes became almost a daily tradition. According to several cast members, no one enjoyed a prank more than Michael Landon. One famous story involved the younger actors covering a toilet seat with plastic wrap before another cast member unknowingly used it. The prank quickly became legendary among the crew and perfectly reflected the playful environment Landon encouraged on set. Another favorite memory came from Rachel Greenbush, who portrayed Carrie Ingalls. During filming breaks, Rachel and Melissa Gilbert often wandered near the creek searching for frogs. Rather than simply releasing their tiny discoveries, they carried them back to the set, where Michael Landon transformed them into another unforgettable prank. He would secretly place one of the frogs inside his mouth before approaching unsuspecting actors or crew members. At exactly the right moment, he would suddenly open his mouth, allowing the frog to leap out without warning. The startled reactions became a source of endless laughter for everyone nearby. Moments like these reminded the cast that even while filming emotional episodes dealing with tragedy or hardship, there was always room for humor. But life behind the scenes wasn't entirely carefree. As years passed, several cast members openly discussed the difficult realities of working in television during the 1970s. Melissa Gilbert, for example, later reflected on how uncomfortable she felt filming romantic scenes while still in her mid-teens. Her first on-screen kiss also happened to be her first kiss in real life, making the experience especially intimidating. Recognizing her discomfort, Michael Landon reportedly stepped in to help. Instead of dismissing her concerns, he spoke with the production team and helped modify certain scenes to make them less stressful for the young actress. Rather than forcing an extended romantic moment, some scenes were adjusted to feel more appropriate for Gilbert's age and comfort level. Stories like that helped reinforce Landon's reputation as someone who genuinely cared about the younger performers working under his direction. Still, not every behind-the-scenes revelation painted such a positive picture. Over the years, several cast members spoke openly about the culture surrounding television production during that era. According to later accounts, alcohol was a common presence among portions of the crew, and Michael Landon himself struggled with heavy drinking during much of the show's run. Melissa Gilbert later described his alcohol use in her memoir, suggesting that many people didn't fully realize the extent of his dependence until much later. Despite those personal struggles, Landon remained one of the industry's hardest-working television creators. In addition to starring as Charles Ingalls, he directed roughly half of the series' episodes and played a major role in writing and producing the show. Few television stars have ever exercised that level of creative control over a successful series. His dedication helped shape Little House on the Prairie into far more than a simple family drama. Unlike many programs of its era, the series frequently explored difficult social issues. Episodes addressed topics such as prejudice, disability, addiction, poverty, abuse, and loss, subjects that many family television shows avoided entirely during the 1970s. While the stories remained hopeful, they often encouraged viewers to think seriously about real-world problems. That willingness to tackle challenging themes became one of the reasons the series continues to attract new audiences decades after its original broadcast. Even so, fans remain just as fascinated by the small production mistakes scattered throughout the series. Some of the most observant viewers have noticed props mysteriously changing places between episodes. A family quilt, for instance, appears on several different beds throughout the series, seemingly traveling from one household to another without explanation. It's a tiny continuity error, but once you notice it, it's impossible to ignore. Another curious detail involves the famous Ingalls home itself. In a handful of scenes, tree branches can be seen, or even heard, outside the upstairs bedroom window. The problem is that those trees don't appear in most exterior shots of the house, suggesting stock footage or added sound effects may have been used to enhance certain scenes. It's a subtle mistake that longtime fans still enjoy pointing out. These tiny production oversights may seem insignificant, but they reveal something important. Even one of television's most beloved classics wasn't flawless. Behind every heartfelt speech, emotional reunion, and unforgettable family moment stood a hard-working cast and crew doing their best under demanding production schedules. Occasionally, a prop ended up in the wrong place, a continuity mistake slipped through editing, or an unexpected blooper remained in the final cut. Rather than diminishing the show's legacy, those imperfections make it feel even more human. And as you'll discover next, some of the funniest bloopers in Little House on the Prairie are so obvious that you'll wonder how they ever made it onto television in the first place.